Another hacker is using YouTube and Facebook for C2 channels.
So Manish, I understand you've got a story about another Trojan that's using Facebook and YouTube to try to avoid detection.
Yeah, that's right. I thought this was pretty interesting. So this company called Cofense Intelligence, they identified this phishing campaign. And I guess right now it's really just targeting the Brazilian population in Brazil. So I guess if you click on this malicious attachment, you get this what's called the Astaroth Trojan, and it uses like YouTube profiles and Facebook posts. Kind of support the code injection and the C2 channel, like the C2 channel. So the malware uses it abuses what they're calling the living off the land binaries, and this, like in this specific case, it's Windows Management Instrumentation Console, right? So it's a kind of a legitimate application. So it kind of evades AV and all of that because it's expected to be running. So then using the command line interface with WMIC, it downloads and installs a malicious payload, just in the background. And then, at that point it does some other things, but this campaign started out with like 3 different types of emails. They were all written in Portuguese, right? So that supports that. For whatever reason, that's really the population that they're targeting. And like I said, once the victim, they click on that attachment, there's like an HTML file that downloads a zip archive, and the zip archive contains like this malicious LNK file. So then the LNK file, it downloads this JavaScript code from what they're called, it's a Cloudflare workers, which I've never heard of, but I guess it's a JavaScript execution environment. And then, some of the, like 2 of the DLL files that are downloaded together, like they join them together to create a legitimate program, and it puts it in like a program files Internet Explorer directory, and it's like the program's called extexport.exe. So that runs this malicious, it's a legitimate program, but it runs this like it's sideloaded with this malicious code. And it uses a process called a technique called process hollowing, and it's basically using one of the legitimate programs that are in a suspended state to kind of takes over and takes out the code and injects it with the malicious code. So they're using like uninst000.exe, svchost.exe, and userinit.exe, right? So those are all legitimate processes that we expect to see. So, another way of it trying to evade being detected.
If you're, say, trying to protect your home network, I imagine that you've got home users, friends, family, who are going to want to hit those websites. If you're at a company, it may be a little easier for you to say with your policy, we don't allow social media sites, we don't allow video sites, and block them outright. It may be possible for you to block those sites outright, but there's still legitimate reasons why, say, your marketing or social media team may want to be able to hit those sites.
But the C2 channel to me was the most interesting, right? So, eventually it'll reach out, the infected machine will reach out to, a YouTube channel or a Facebook profile, and it'll grab, I guess the contents, the configuration data is posted, on these YouTube channels and Facebook posts, and it's basically encoded, base64 encoded, but then there's like a custom encryption that's on top of it. So where I guess the malware has to grab that and then decode it, unencrypt it, and then that's how it gets the C2 channel. So the malware, basically, it's just like an information stealer. It grabs financial information, stored passwords in the browser, email client credentials, SSH credentials, things like that, and then it basically encrypts it with 2 layers of encryption, and then sends that in an HTTPS post back to the C2. So I thought that part of it was pretty interesting, and it's, a lot of these attackers, as the security professionals get better at detecting and preventing, the attackers pivot to something else that's brand new that, it's and they're getting very good at finding ways that are even harder to detect.
Sure.
How many things can you possibly monitor? You're monitoring your employees, like the activities that they're doing, or whoever's on your network and the infrastructure. Now you have to monitor, if your company allows, or at your home, you go to YouTube or Facebook. Like even that can be.
At home,
Right.
pretty much most
Pretty
people
much
don't
most
have
people.
outbound filtering. So,
Right.
And YouTube and Facebook are some of the top sites on the
Right.
web. So
Right.
chances are you're going to be going to them regularly. So
Right.
that's why this is a valuable way for an attacker to do this, because it's going to get through.
Right.
That
Right.
and it's going to be encrypted. And then if you actually wanted to somehow take a look at every single set of comments or text that's within a YouTube profile, or God forbid a Facebook profile,
Right.
which is nothing but text and photos for days.
Right.
Like, it's going to be very hard to suss this out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the issues, right?
Well, I was thinking one of the interesting features of this, and Manish, you kind of mentioned it when you were going through it, was the use of the Cloudflare workers domain, which was something that I wasn't all that familiar with until I read this. But you're probably not going to block JavaScript that's coming through Cloudflare, because so many sites use it to front their domains to do DDoS protection and whatever, content distribution. So hiding your malicious JavaScript there, I thought, was also kind of an interesting.
Right now it's really just targeting Brazil, but if, I'm assuming, depending on how successful it is, it wouldn't be that hard for them to, to pivot to other locations.
And obviously, if these guys have success with it, somebody else will duplicate it. They'll do something similar.
Right. Not only these actors, but everyone else, once they hear about this.
Ultimately, I think some responsibility falls on those sites to keep an eye on how people are using the service. They're already doing it now for explicit content or other things that human beings may not want to look at, but they may want to consider looking for things that look like automatic bot traffic